It's been 25 years, but I feel like one of the most misunderstood Final Fantasy games is finally starting to receive the flowers it deserves. When Final Fantasy VII dropped, it was a revelation. RPGs were the most ambitious and complex video games at the time, and FF7 blew the lid off. It was the epitome of next-gen gaming in 1997, with 3D graphics, pre-rendered cutscenes, and so massive it had to be contained across 3 CDs. This one here is signed by Nobuo Uematsu. I also got him to sign my shoe, but I lost that one. It's credited for introducing a wider Western audience to Japanese RPGs, so it was always going to be a tough act to follow up. Final Fantasy VIII was bigger and better in almost every way possible. The character models were shaped like actual human beings now, the CGI cutscenes looked just short of real, and the soundtrack included actual orchestral pieces and vocal performances. It built upon FF7 in so many ways, including the fusing of a fantasy world with sci-fi elements, a romance at the heart of its story, and fleshing out the dual protagonist setup where one of the two main characters exists in the past. Final Fantasy VIII one-upped 7 in almost every conceivable way, including one more disc. But for some reason, it's never received the same level of acclaim as its predecessor has. It certainly seems to have reviewed well at the time, but FF8 arguably started what is now a tradition for many Final Fantasy fans, complaining that the new one isn't as good as the old ones. People seem to not like Squall being an angsty lone wolf type, whose sole contribution to every conversation is a despondent whatever. But this ignores the fact that the entire arc of Squall's character is how Rinoa and his friends help him to open up and become a more emotionally available person. People hate on the draw and junction system, which I feel just creates a fun risk versus reward system in battles. And then there is the infamous orphanage scene, which is a perfectly reasonable plot point and is immediately foreshadowed within the first minutes of gameplay if you interact with the student terminal. If you can't tell by now, I am a Final Fantasy VIII apologist. It is the single most important piece of media in my life. It made me fall in love with video games, music, and storytelling as a medium. And now that the game is 25 years old, I feel like the sentiment towards FF8 is finally beginning to turn. More and more, fans of this supposed black sheep of the franchise are finally having our voices heard. Chief among these is Ben Starr, the voice actor for Final Fantasy XVI's protagonist Clive. Ben has seemingly made it his life's mission to spread the good news of Final Fantasy VIII's unappreciated genius. Ben, you're doing the great Heinz work. I can only hope that this burgeoning wellspring of love for Final Fantasy VIII leads to something more for the title. As a kid, I always wanted a game which focused on Laguna's story because he was my favourite character, but in the age of remakes, I don't really care what we get. I just want something. Anything. So happy 25th birthday Final Fantasy VIII. Don't listen to the haters, you're the best looking Final Fantasy game here.